Shana Tova, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We have made it to Friday night and Shabbat in the new year, 5785. We who are here inside the sanctuary at Temple Solel in Bowie, Maryland, a warm and welcoming Jewish congregation. We'd like to be even more welcoming. If you're in the neighborhood, feel free to stop by and pray with us.
We're ready.
It's Shabbat. Okay, it's Shabbat after we were here Wednesday night and Thursday, and some of us Friday morning for Rosh Hashanah. Some of us are going to be here for Torah study in the morning. Some of us are going to be here for religious school Sunday. Most of us are going to be here next Shabbat for Yom Kippur. We're a little tired. I get it. But tonight is Shabbat Shuvah, that special Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when, if nothing else, we get to do all the small print in the Amidah that says, on Shabbat Shuvah, include here, or finish here, or start here. That's your warning. I'll remind you again when we get there. We have Gary and Linda to lead our music. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
We are going to begin with our opening song, which, if I remember correctly, is actually in your prayer books.
On page 24.
24. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Back on pages 2 and 3, we invite forward Serena to lead us in the lighting of Shabbat candles.
I'm going to say it first.
You can say it first.
No.
No,
Read one of
you read one of the readings.
Pick any English reading.
If,
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch
Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen.
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 There's two ways I can handle this next moment. I can go right into the Kiddush on pages 4 and 5, or I can own the truth, which is that in all the craziness of the past couple of days, I forgot to print up the lists of birthdays and anniversaries and the yard site list, which I will make sure I have for the end of the service. So tonight we are going to acknowledge not only all those who are celebrating birthdays and anniversaries, but any simchas in their lives, in the abstract, in the generic. Because next Friday night, we will not be reading names. It will be Yom Kippur, which means 2 Friday nights from now, at family services, we're going to have a whole lot of names to read anyway. And we'll just make it an even bigger bash during Sukkot and celebrate everybody whose name needs to be acknowledged. If you are celebrating a birthday or an anniversary this week, we love you. We wish you a happy birthday and a happy anniversary. And we will catch up with making sure everybody knows that you celebrated in a week or 2. But for tonight, we will ask God to bless everybody who's celebrating a simcha, regardless of what it is, in the traditional words. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha, may God bless you all and keep you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, may God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God look upon you now and always and smile, granting contentment and wholeness, fulfillment and peace, the gift of true shalom. And let us all say,
Amen.
Amen. So now on pages 4 and 5, we rise for the Kiddush, physically and spiritually as we're able. We invite forward Yoku Shaw Taylor.
The heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the 7th day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the 7th day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the 7th day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat v'hadsho, b'yachavo v'ratzon hin kulanu, zikaron l'maseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehillah, l'mikro kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki banu b'charta, v'yatanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodecha, v'yachava uvratzon, hinhaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
Please be seated. I shared this poem earlier today, and it feels like a good one to share again tonight. It comes to me over the heading in social media of Barefoot Rabbi, and I have no idea if whoever Barefoot Rabbi is responsible for the poem or just its presentation on the page, which is very lovely, but so are the words. My ancestors changed their names while on line at Ellis Island, their bodies still swaying to the waves of the Atlantic Ocean, the huddled tired and poor gazing at Mother Exile's silhouette. I wonder what letters they discarded into the choppy waters of New York, like a ceremony of tashlich, when we cast our past to the sea, those ligaments of ourselves that we want to forgive or forget. If only I could ask them today where to find those missing letters. I'd splash into the waters like a cleansing mikveh bath, because after years of looking, I'm ready to find the rest of me. Page 22 in our prayer books. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, Tov Lehodot Ladonai Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Together, the righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no wrong. Pages 28 and 29, we rise once again for the call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sherim, uvidvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, kolel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil bein yom uvein laila, Adonai tziva'ot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Aravim. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Together, this is the hour of change. And within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Together? Don't let me struggle alone.
Help me
to understand,
to be
wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohei V'mo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. You may be seated. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavcha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol meodecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha, v'lechtecha v'derech, uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha, u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and on earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
You don't have your guitar.
Mi chamocha
Elim
ba'elim
Adonai,
Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osefele, malchutecha, ra'u v'necha bokei hayam, Lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Ze'eli, Anu ve'amru, Adonai Yimloch le'olam va'ed.
V'ne'emar kifado, Adonai Yaakov, Uglo biyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Goal Yisrael.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chayim, ufrosalenu sukat shlomecha, v'taknenu be'etzet tova milfanecha, v'hoshienu lema'an shemecha. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, aporei sukat shalom aleinu, al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasod et ha-Shabbat ledotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasod et ha-Shabbat ledotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasod et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam.
Keshet yamin asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. שבת ויהי נפש.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
The thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat arrives in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day. Pages 46 and 47, we turn from the Shema and her blessings, the reminder of all of the ways that we see God and God's influence on our lives as a Jewish community. And we turn now to the more individual side of prayer, the praising, the thanking, the asking that is the centerpiece of the tefillah. We prepare ourselves, starting as individuals in silence, and eventually bring ourselves together to ask God to open our lips collectively, that we might declare praise. So I invite you to take a moment now to get yourself ready. And in the middle of it, we're going to start singing. You're welcome to join us when you're ready, and when you are fully ready for the tefillah, I invite you to rise physically and spiritually once again as you are able.
Yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. Adonai Svatai Tiftach Ufi Yagita Hilatecha.
This is where I remind you before we begin to look at the small print for every place it says Shabbat Shuvah with an asterisk. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem, L'Ma'an Shemo Be'ahava,
Zachareinu lechaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chosaveinu v'sefer, בספר החיים למען אנחנו אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך הקדוש. You are holy. Your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Praised are you, Adonai, the holy sovereign. You may be seated. We continue together at the bottom of page 54 in the English. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, Be'amcha Yisrael, Utfilatam be'ahava tekabel, Utehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, El karov lechol korav, Penei el avadecha v'chonenu, Shfoch ruchacha aleinu, V'techezena einena, Beshuvcha l'tzion berachamim. Let our eyes behold your loving return to Zion. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yir'ah na'avod. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzor chayenu magen yishenu. Atahu Ledor Vador. Together we acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. Uchtov lechayim tovim, kol b'nei vritecha, v'chol hachayim yoducha sela, v'halalu et shimcha be'emet, ha'el yeshuatenu v'ezratenu sela. Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha Lecha Na'eh Lehodot. For all these things, O Sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. Inscribe all the children of your covenant for a good life. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai.
Your
His name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha, Lecha Na'eh Lehodot.
Shalom Rahav Yisrael
Amcha,
Tasim Leolam.
Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha,
Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'anecha livarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Together at the top of page 61, grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace. Give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul. And may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Back on page 60, in the book of life, blessing, peace, and prosperity. May we be remembered and inscribed by you, we and all your people Israel, for good life and for peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who makes peace. Baruch atah Adonai, oseh ha-shalom. Having navigated the Shabbat Shuvah Amidah in all of its required elements, we conclude now in the silence of the individual prayers that defy our ability to place words on them and release them in more normal ways, giving us no choice but to share them now silently together.
Son imrefi ve'yon libi lefanecha yiyu liratzon imrefi ve'yon libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri ve'goali Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri ve'goali Yiyu liratzon imrefi ve'yon libi lefanecha Ratzon Imrefi, Veheyon Libi, Lefonecha. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri Vegoali. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri Vegoali.
This brings us to that moment in our worship as a community where we turn aside from the self, where we turn to the needs of those around us, family members, neighbors, friends, loved ones, those we don't even know, in search of healing in all of its different forms. For me, this is never an easy prayer, less so as we start a new year, because this is the prayer that obligates us to acknowledge the truth that we shared the other night, that in fact we do not start with the slate erased. We do not get to start over. There's no reset like there is on the calendar with our actual lives. That which was afflicting us before afflicts us still. That which we need to ask God to send healing for still exists. If anything, a little bit more pointedly, because we are starting the new year with it. We want that slate to be clean, and it's a reminder that it's not. Years ago, Debbie Friedman taught us how to pray this prayer. And then about a decade ago, our friend Noah Budin taught us here really how to pray this prayer. Debbie's words are on page 253 for reference, but we know Noah Budin's version, especially when Gary's up here with us. And so I invite you to rise as you are comfortable doing so. I invite you to join in. And if we can't reset the slates, if we can't erase them, we can at least sing with all our hearts our hope for God's healing.
Amen. Beating like the wings of the raven flying empty, the heart will sing the only song it knows. Breathing in your breath of life, the dove will circle gently, leading to the healing path she chose. And I will reach out to you, help me find my own song, source of strength, Misha Beirach, Avotenu, Imotenu, sing to me from where you are. Imotenu, Avotenu, hold me in your loving arms. Misha Beirach, be a blessing. Amen. Sailing on the waters was a way to make us stronger, testing our resilience every day. Walking on the burning sands, the endless days seem longer than our strength to let you guide us on our way. And I will reach out to you, help me find my own song, source of strength, Misha Beirach, Avotenu, Imotenu, sing to me from where you are. Imotenu, Ve'avotenu, hold me in your loving arms. Misha Beirach, be a blessing. Amen. Misha Beirach, be a blessing. Amen. Amen.
You may be seated. I miss the old days. I do. I mean the really old days before I was born.
You mean like on Wednesday?
Back in the medieval times, when a community was finally big enough to bring a rabbi to town instead of sharing a circuit riding rabbi with the surrounding communities, that they could finally make it and have their own rabbi that they could count on seeing to lead services every Shabbat and every time they needed him. Because in those days it was him, unfortunately. In those bad old days, that rabbi was expected to preach 2 times a year.
Oh, no wonder you miss it.
Oh, I got the punchline.
2 times a year.
Just 2.
Once on Shabbat HaGadol in the spring, on the Sabbath before Passover, to remind everybody all of the incredibly diverse and varied and trivial rules for how to make sure that your Pesach Seder was not only delicious and meaningful, but also kosher. And on Shabbat Shuvah, the Sabbath before Yom Kippur, for the same reason, to prepare the community and remind us what is expected of us when we come in all day, to defend our lives and to pray together before God. Friends, I stand here tonight and I say to you, not ironically and not with a bit of over-dramaticism, we have never in our lifetimes experienced a Shabbat Shuvah like we are experiencing this year. That chair with my other talit down front is my physical reminder of that truth. For almost 12 full months, we have counted week by week like we used to do at Passover for the Omer. But for Passover, we stopped when we got to Shavuot. We stopped when we got to 50. For the past year, the numbers continued to mount, as sadly the hostage count went down, more by death than by return. And now we face the truth that this coming week marks 1 year since October 7th. 1 full year. The ones who died, whether it was at Nova or in any of the other attacks, their families have stopped saying Kaddish for them. And there are still those we don't know whether they're alive or dead. We just know that they're not with us. And it hasn't stopped. And in recent days, it's only gotten worse. And my goal for tonight is not to share that topic again. But I know on this Shabbat Shuvah, as I prepare myself to stand before God, to stand before you, my community, I know that I have more to seek atonement for than ever before, because I know that this year, because of October 7th of last year, has pushed me and challenged me and at times defeated me in ways that I have never felt before, that I have certainly never admitted before, in ways that have affected my ability to be your rabbi in the way that I want to be. And that's part of what I have to own on this Shabbat Shuvah. This is part of how what I have to figure out how to make right in the coming days. It's why on Wednesday night I started our discussion of what peace looks like and how to get to it, with the often overlooked aspect of how do we make peace with ourselves? Because for me, that had to be a first step. It took me way too long to get back to my comfortable place near the middle, to be able to say what had to be said in support of Israel and to be able to still be true to my own soul. The soul that worries about all lives and their value. the soul that worries about innocence wherever they are, the soul that is more concerned about free speech than most other things. And it wasn't only in Israel. Don and I were talking before services tonight. The University of Maryland, and now with the help of the federal courts of this country, has given us quite a challenge. Because there's a pro-Palestinian group on the University of Maryland campus that has asked for space and time to mourn their losses this coming October 7th. The university, in their wisdom under pressure, said there would be no public events at all, only private expressions. The federal court saw fit to overturn that. As a rabbi, that pains me, knowing that there are going to be Jews on that campus made to feel very uncomfortable. As an activist for free speech, I think it might actually have been the right decision, with all due respect to my legal friend over here. And that gives me challenge in trying to balance them, which is why we're not going to talk about that tonight either. We're just going to mention that it's not just half a world away. It very much does affect our lives, and I'm not just talking about fears of security and rising anti-Semitism. The path to peace with ourselves has to be the first step toward making peace with others, as we pointed out all this week. But I think there's another truth here, and that is that the ability to find peace in the world is an integral part of being able to be at peace with ourselves. And that starts to turn it into a catch-22 and a vicious circle. The good news is you can jump in anywhere. The bad news is you have to jump in somewhere, and the entrance isn't always clearly marked. And the other challenge is that it is in between that very personal ideal of peace with ourselves and this very global idea of, as they said in a movie famously, world peace.
Scary.
Peace for all the world. There's a number of steps in between. And we're so busy looking at the two extremes, as we do so often in the world today, that we miss the truth that in this case it really is a spectrum. And in order to effectively get from peace with ourselves to peace in the world, we've got to develop the relationships along the way that let us get there. We have to make peace in our families, peace in our community, peace in our congregation, peace in our nation, peace with the global Jewish people before we can make global peace. And all of those are built on relationships and our ability to make them. Buber was right. The path to God is through the I, thou. When we look at our partners in relationship not as things, but as true partners, not trying to define them or label them, but simply being able to live with them and partner with them. If you look in a dictionary, there are an awful lot of idioms that involve the word peace. Almost as many in Hebrew as there are in English. It's obviously something that's really important to people. It's why we fill our language with it. It's why the Inuit have 27 words for snow. Think about our own language. Where are the places we are overglutted with synonyms of nuanced difference? And ask if those are the places we really want to be putting our emphasis in language. We talk about shalom in Hebrew. But do you know what the root shin lamed mem really means? Here are the places we come across this root in modern Hebrew. When you're sitting at a restaurant and it's time for the meal to end and they bring you the bill, you shalem the bill. You fulfill your obligation to pay for the meal you've already enjoyed. If you want to talk about wellness in Hebrew, that big thing that's replaced health in our thinking, it's beyond health, which is reactive, it's wellness, which is proactive and good. The word for wellness in Hebrew is shleimut, completeness in all aspects. This is the root meaning in Hebrew of shalom. These are hints to us for the tools we need to carry in our toolkit if we're going to be peacemakers. I came across a great quote this week, a bunch of them. This one I really liked for reasons both in the quote and beyond. The way you alchemize a soulless world into a sacred world is by treating everyone as if they are sacred until the sacred in them remembers. It's a brilliant statement. It acknowledges the truth that we can't change people, but we can help them to change themselves. And it is credited, when I found it online, to Sarah Durham Wilson, who is also known as the Mother Spirit, which makes me suspect and think this may not be originally from a Jewish source, although I suspect originally it is from a Jewish source. Because I then went on and also discovered elsewhere that the very same quote, word for word online, is credited to Rivka Grace Savitri. And I could be making an assumption in error here, but with a first name of Rivka, someplace before me, a Jew found this and said, this needs to be Jewish, and didn't trace it back to Sarah Durham Wilson. And of course, it's not new. The 14th century, the Persian Sufi poet Hafiz said, I wish that I could show you, when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. How do we make peace? By being able to show others the light in them that they cannot see in themselves. We talked earlier today about Hagar's handling of Ishmael's dilemma in the wilderness. We compared it in a new light to Abraham attempting to sacrifice Isaac, and came to a very different conclusion than we usually do. But at the end of the day, when we ask ourselves that base question that we still haven't completely answered, how do we make peace with ourselves in a way that allows us to start to make peace with others? I thought long and hard about this. And at the end of a week of not writing a word down on the page about it, I wrote down the following words. It feels like there are two ways that we make peace with ourselves in reality. One is personal, and one is completely responsible to others. Because either we choose to ignore that which causes us hurt or distress, that which is our weakness, or else we embrace it head on to overcome it by forgiving ourselves for our weakness and working to transcend it. It's one of those rare binaries. I'm not sure that it's possible to walk the middle road between these two. It seems to me like Miyagi was right in Karate Kid when he taught Daniel, either karate yes, Daniel, or karate no. Karate maybe, splat. And when I got these words down on the page, it sort of felt like Miyagi was in my head. Either we ignore that which causes us hurt or distress or is our weakness, or we embrace it and own it head on to overcome it by forgiving ourselves for our weaknesses and working to transcend them. The one gives us permission to behave however we see fit without regard to others. The other obligates us to remember that we're part of the world. If it sounds like I may be starting a new sermon, I will stop here and let you fill it in for yourself, because that's not my intent tonight. But the fact that I get that close to another sermon in my answer to the question strikes me as being somewhat powerful and valuable. And if these words help, great. And if they don't, challenge yourself to do better than I did. Challenge me by sharing what you think is better. And maybe together, in dialogue, sharpening each other, we might get closer to a truth that we can use. We have our work cut out for us this week, and honestly, for the rest of the month. If anything has been successful in this past year, it has been in branding the date October 7th into our minds. But the truth is that those of us who live here in this community remember last year where we were when we heard. We remember what we were doing immediately after we heard. We were celebrating the end of Simchat Torah and the end of the high holidays as a whole with our friend Dan Nichols. And the challenge of living as Jews in America is that sometimes our calendars play ugly tricks on us. And this year, this one gets us twice. How do we give October 7th as the actual date its proper due that it deserves and needs still, because it is not resolved, when we are exhausted in the middle of the high holidays? And how do we drag ourselves through the challenge that is the annual marathon of the high holidays and get to the end of them and then acknowledge what we will surely be feeling then too? It's a small enough room, and I suspect, even though I can't see, that we may not have as many people on the other side of the ether either tonight. And that's okay. So I'm going to give away the punchline to those of you who are here. You deserve a prize for being here. Don knows it already. He and I have been talking about it for close to a month or more. I had a dream for what the end of the high holidays would be this year. It was a crazy dream. It was an impractical dream. It's not going to be made real because we're nowhere near being able to try, much less to succeed. But I thought to myself, not unlike what's going on at the University of Maryland, wouldn't it be remarkable if we could get a group of Jews together to honestly and openly mourn whatever it is we are feeling, knowing that there is not one Jewish position on this, that there's an incredible breadth of a spectrum of responses to this last year? How cool would it be if we could just do that? Effectively hearing each other, supporting each other, even when they say things that we disagree with us, that we disagree with, where we are. Some of us tried that in a committee meeting in planning for these high holidays. It got out of hand. We know that. It's hard. It's still impossible. Which is why the dream was crazy, because it didn't stop there. It started there. Because the next part of the dream was, and wouldn't it be cool if at the same time we could have a bunch of our Muslim neighbors and friends, and in this community we are blessed to have 20 years of experience working with Muslim neighbors and friends. Wouldn't it be cool to invite them to join us and listen to their pain and hear their mourning at the end of this year, without getting up in our own need to be comfortable and not feel in any way guilty? and really be able to hear each other. Maybe just then, we would recognize that we share a pain from a common source that could bring us together more than it tears us apart. Maybe I'm better off saying, maybe at the end of the high holidays, we're ready to invite Messiah to move to Bowie and join us. Might be a little easier to achieve. I get it. But that little voice in my head that sometimes sounds like Miyagi and sometimes sounds like something else keeps saying to me, but what if you could? What would it look like? What would it feel like? We're not going to get there for this year. But at the end of these high holidays, as we start the new year, I hope we're in a position where we can start a journey together this year with that as our goal for next year. To see if maybe, just maybe, we're onto something. Or maybe, just maybe, this rabbi is losing it and is getting closer to needing to say it's been a great career. Because both are possible. And the scary part is both can be possible at the same time. It's a journey we each have to take together. It's a journey we each have to take by ourselves. And that's what makes it so interesting and so challenging. As we start this year, may we find the strength, the wisdom, the courage, the patience to look for the opportunities, to see things in a new light, to build the toolkit and start to teach ourselves how to use it, to build peace for ourselves and for our world. Ki yehi ratzon, may it be God's will. Amen. And now, to present a responsible opposing viewpoint, a few words of Shabbat and New Year greeting and a few brief announcements, our Congregational Vice President and all-around good guy, Don Quinn.
I'm not sure you're going to keep that line once I get done, but... Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
I just want to start by saying thank you to the rabbi. And to quote another famous person, you may be a dreamer, but you're not the only one. Okay. So everybody gets the bulletin, so I always get up here and I go, what should I tell people? They all get the bulletin, everybody knows what's happening, but you know what? We're going to do it anyway. Because it's the high holidays and because we've got Yom Kippur coming and there's a marathon coming, in case you didn't forget, so thank you for starting tonight. Friday, October the 11th, and Saturday, October the 12th, we're all going to be here, which means, for me personally, I don't get to be here October 13th. No religious school, which is amazing. I get to sleep in on Sunday.
Unless
No, we're not doing that dreamer thing.
You helped build the sukkah.
you're coming to build the sukkah.
I can still sleep in a little bit. I don't have to get 5 ready to come to religious school. Okay. The other thing is Friday, October the 18th, we have family services, and it's always good to see all the families out. And everybody, just come out, and it's great to have the kids up here and watch them learn as they need to. And rabbi sermons are always kid-based, so I love them. And other than that, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Torah starting in the morning.
Torah started in the morning.
You betcha.
You betcha. And so you should be getting out of bed for that one.
So before we go to the back in a couple of minutes for the oneg, we still have all the materials out on the table from the high holidays. Food drive, if you haven't already taken a grocery bag, they have the list of what we're collecting. Please take one, fill them, bring them back before the holidays are over. You'll notice that there are 2 pages that are actually on colored paper, as opposed to all the other ones that were printed on white and sort of all look the same. One of them is actually the schedule of all the things we're doing during Sukkot, and the other one is the schedule of all the things we're doing on and for Simchat Torah. So if you're not sure or you think you've seen multiple things, That is now the definitive list, even if it says something totally different than everything else I've gotten wrong in all the other ways we communicate with you. And we'll figure out which one is right when we yell at each other. But for now, at least you'll know what's happening on which days. So it includes a family service during Sukkot. It involves starting Sukkot with pizza in the hut. It involves Shabbat morning, as we did last year, getting out of the building Dan Nichols style. Not to go to the Renfest this year for Shabbat. This year we're going to Quiet Water State Park, a little bit different, but still out in nature. We're going to have the opportunity to be there for a while, so we'll do some text study. We'll do some praying in an informal setting. We'll provide breakfast if you want to stick around through lunch and enjoy the park. We're paying for your entry fee and your parking, so come enjoy it. And bring what you want to make for lunch or eat for lunch, because we've got the pavilion till 2 o'clock. And when we get closer to Simchat Torah, I'll start filling your head with all kinds of crazy ideas for what those days are going to look like before they start to totally crash in my own. But we do have an oneg, right, Beth?
Yes, yeah.
Bless you.
Wait, and I forgot I didn't give you the sponsors, so Floyd,
It's all
Jeanette
leftovers from
Anderson,
lunch.
Jen Berlinger, and Ellen Arnott are the sponsors.
So the Andersons, Ellen Arnott, and Jen Berlinger, we thank you for the oneg we're about to enjoy. Not to mention, I suspect, a little bit of Michelle, because there's probably some leftovers from lunch. I hope, because there were some good leftovers. Yep, exactly. And thank you for being here to make sure that it all gets done, as always. We continue on page 283. 282. Let's have some fun. Bottom of the page, we rise for Aleinu.
Oleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teikedu lo liyotzeh breshit, shelo asanu kigoyeh harotzot, v'lo samanu ki mishpachot hadama, shelo sam helkenu kohem, v'gor oleinu kehol hamonam, anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 285. We read together at the top of the page. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. May all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth,
and
the word of your prophet fulfilled.
Adonai
will reign forever and ever. Page 287.
Vayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Yesh kochavim she'oram magia orza. There are stars up above so far away, we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we have loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. Our thoughts turn to those who've departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and our neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. On this Shabbat Shuvah, unlike any other, we deviate from our normal pattern. Earlier today, we sent out the list of those whom we remember as a community. I will take the role as leader of mentioning Harriet Suskin, as we are still within the 30 days, the Shloshim, since her passing. Some of us who are in this room are here tonight because we have those we need to remember. And I invite you now to call out the names of those you are here to remember, if that is the case.
He doesn't have the list.
Michael Katz, Audrey Grassa,
Michael Wiseman,
Danny Holt.
it's a very personal Shabbat in my family, obviously. And all of that is engulfed by the truth that this is the Shabbat as a Jewish community, when if we could, we would need to mention over 1,200 names. The victims of October 7th. Not all of them Jewish. And the too many others since then. Many of them not Jewish. All those who are no longer with us. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing. May their memories be for peace. Page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah. Ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. V'agalav izman kariv imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabah mevarach. Le'olam olalei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal. Shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Yemaru, amen. Oseh shalom miramav. Huyaseh
Shalom
aleinu
aleinu.
v'al
Kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel.
Yemaru, amen.
Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all those who mourn, all those who are still struggling. Let us all say, Amen. I'm going to invite you to stay up, even though we usually sit, because on the Shabbat Shuvah, our closing hymn is Avinu Malkeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Onenu v'yanenu, ki ein banu masin. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Onenu v'yanenu, ki ein banu masin. Aseh manu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh manu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Aseh manu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh manu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu.
For years, I have struggled silently with this closing moment of our service. Lighting candles together, saying Kiddush to greet Shabbat, those make sense. Breaking bread together, with hamotzi, technically in the Jewish world, makes it a meal, obligates us to say Birkat Hamazon when we're finished. And we never do. We go back to the oneg.
True.
But it's only in the last couple of months that we finally started to acknowledge the inconsistency of the blessing we say at this moment. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We thank God for bringing bread from the earth. No! As we said earlier today, God does not bring bread. This does not grow in the earth. All the stuff that it takes to make this grows in the earth. And God gives those to us, but then God gives us the wisdom and the responsibility for turning that stuff into this. I point that out as we say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of all time and space, who brings forth that which we need to make bread from the earth and allows us, requires us to do the rest. Because that's really our benediction. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors. Makor birchotenu, source of our blessings. For years at this moment, we have asked you at the end of our benediction to grant us peace. But looking at this challah tonight, we realize that we've been asking for the wrong thing. God, we thank you for giving us the tools to make peace. We thank you for the wisdom to use them wisely, if only we would. We thank you for the strength, if only we had it, to use the wisdom to make the peace. But to thank you for giving us peace? No. Like the challah, if it's going to turn out good and worth eating, it requires our involvement. It requires our action. And so tonight I say, Adonai oz le'amo yitain, God, please give us a strength, not of arms, but of wisdom and patience and courage. Give us the tools that we need to be peacemakers for ourselves, for our community, for our world. And then give us the wisdom and the opportunity to take all that you do give us and turn it into a peace that is as attractive and sustaining and delicious as this challah on this Shabbat and every Shabbat. Amen.
Amen.
Shana Tova and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.